mindfulness practice is not just for those of us who are in comfortable situations, it's also for those of us who are in very difficult situations. And in particular, it can be helpful for those who are incarcerated. And not just in whatever country you happen to be in, it's worldwide. Hi, my name is Ted Meissner, and welcome to Mindfulness Voyage. Today we are going to be exploring mindfulness in prison systems in Ireland. Please do like and subscribe if you're getting something out of these episodes. Thank you for being here, and let's begin with today's guest. Our guest today is John Peelo. John, welcome to the podcast. Good to see you again, my friend.
Great to see you, Ted, and thanks for thinking of me. It's good to be here.
So let's dive right in. I want to hear a little bit about you introducing yourself to those who don't know you. Who are you and what do you do? A little bit about your background.
Right, I'm a John Peelo McGuinness, because my mother's a McGuinness. Lived in Dublin all my life, from a family of 11. My mum and dad had 11 children, 8 boys, 3 girls. Set me off on the world. I'm in the middle. Wasn't great in school, left school, worked, did lots of things, became a compositor, then joined priesthood, then left that shortly, then went and studied social work in Cork, and then was very lucky enough to get jobs in Ballymun, in a suburb, a poverty suburb of Dublin, and then the inner city. So that's my life. I've married with 3 lovely girls, Saoirse, Sivens and Neva, and I live up in the Dublin mountains. And my hobbies are playing the guitar, having a good session, having a lovely pint now and again in a nice local pub, and and teaching mindfulness when I can. And I'm retired, which is just lovely. I retired in June from 30 years of working as a social worker. So a whole new life ahead of me. That's
Congratulations on that. And I remember at the retreat we were on together some months ago, you coming in and borrowing a guitar for an evening session at that retreat. So I remember the guitar playing. Thank you for that overview. And I want to dive into our topic. What a lot of your work has been is in bringing mindfulness to incarcerated people in Dublin. And I'm wondering if you could just say a little bit about how you got started doing that, because that's not always something people first gravitate to when they become a mindfulness teacher.
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting because you can't get into prisons that easily. Well, unless you can, unfortunately, if you're from the inner city or from the areas I've worked with, you get in too easily. But to teach are something that they're very strict in who comes in. And I was actually singing in, they have a mass of Peter McVerry. He's a justice worker, priest that does mass every Sunday. So I asked him, could I come in and do a few songs, at the mass? Not that I'm that religious, but I thought it'd be nice. And he went, okay. And then I met the chaplain there who said, okay, yeah, come in. And then we got on very well. And while I was there, I just finished the mindfulness training with Florence and Saki, actually. Anne too, who got me into that. And I said to the chaplain, do you know what? I've teached working as a social worker in the inner city and in Ballymun, and all the kids I worked with, some of them who I've met in the prison while I was there singing, come up to me. They said, my head is wrecked. How do I get my head unwrecked? And as a social worker, I didn't really have the skills to unwreck their heads. Not, and all the therapies that were available to them from the CAMS and the primary care psychology never seemed to work. The mindfulness I thought might be very useful. So when I just finished training, and Anne Delight was so good at supporting me, supervising me, but also giving me guidance. So I said, I'll try this. I started doing introductions in 2011. When the chaplain was going, great, this could be really good. She trusted me then because I got to know her after a year of doing the singing. And that's how I started. And then I was just in. And then I just plodded away, and 13 years later, I'm still doing it. So it took a while, but just to become part of the furniture in there. Now the prison officers go, oh, there's John, come in. Yep. So that's how I got in, and it seems to be working for the men.
Yeah, that is fascinating. And that's what I'd like to hear about. What are some of the impacts that you have had that they've shared with you about how this may have changed things for them? What's that been like?
It's very emotional. It's an 8-week introduction, but I kind of squeeze the 8-week curriculum. I only have an hour every Thursday, But I take I suppose the best bits of it, and it's, and I also throw in a bit of NVC, Marshall Rosenberg, nonviolent communication. I start with nobody can make you angry. Has anybody ever made you angry? And they go, what are you talking about? Of course they have. And then we reflect on that at the end of the course when they've done the attitudes are just, the course is brilliant in offering so much around, non-judging, beginner's mind, letting go. And they're just words, unless, through the course, you kind of bring them in through watching that feel in the body, the thinking mind, then, oh, yeah, oh, I can stop that. And then offering that, being kind to yourself, which is an alien concept to the men a lot of the time. And then the breath bringing you back to the now. So that's it. The raise and exercise, the patience, the knowing it's something different. The feedback is very emotional. We do a graduation at the end of every course, and we bring in either the governor or the chief or somebody, and they're always blown away by I'm not as angry anymore. The phone call with my family is much better than it used to be. My wife's noticed a difference in me. The lads in the landing have noticed a big difference in me. I sleep better. That's one of the things. I don't react as bad as I used to. I just pause and think. And these are people who don't normally talk about things. They're just very animated by the effect it's had on them. One guy lost his leg not through the mindfulness, obviously, but while he had an infection in his leg and it was amputated. And I remember going in to visit him in the hospital nearby where the prison is. And he said without the mindfulness, he doesn't think he could have made it. It gave him a whole new way of being. So, being in a prison is a tough place to be, especially when you're there through adverse experiences. Not that nobody's obviously evil or mean, but it's the circumstances that have gotten there. When they see that and you build that relationship with them, they really appreciate it. It's quite profound. Yeah.
So I'm curious if any of those who have gone through the program and are later released, have you heard from any of them on, okay, what is life like for you now on the outside? Is mindfulness still a part of your life?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I work in the inner city. I see the lads coming through the streets that have been released. Some of them, they say, "Oh, you're John." I'm kind of, "Oh, where do I know you from?" And he goes, "Oh, yeah, Wheatfield or whatever, Mountjoy." And I go, "Yeah." And some of them, yeah, oh no, that was great. It was great. They're not continuing to practice, which is difficult because their lives are still chaotic for very much of the time. But one or two, I've one guy who came out and he wants to be a mindfulness teacher now. So he's hooked up with Helen and Josephine, and so that's fantastic. He's an amazing guy. But there's a core group of lads that I go back into practice with every Thursday. Through the chaplain is brilliant. Without the continuing, we didn't want to just go in and run a course. And that doesn't work. They're just people. But there's a continuing practice of men there. They would be excellent mindful teachers. They run the sessions themselves every week. When I'm doing the course, they come in and do a little bit of they've even written poetry that we include in the course. They take on the raising, or they do that part of it, and they're continuing to practice and bringing young people in that have joined the prison. Like some of the young people have said, "I didn't know men could talk like this. I have never experienced this in my life." So when you do the talking and the feedback sessions, so that's the best part for me. These guys continuing to practice.
Yeah, and it's so fascinating to hear that there is this. You found a way to work around the issue we've had with programs with MBIs like MBSR, mindfulness-based stress reduction, and others that have a beginning, middle, and an end. And then people have in the past been kind of left to their own devices, and
Yeah.
you found a way to have some regular offering that they're able to manage themselves. And I imagine that itself is a bit empowering to them. And I'm curious, what is it like? Just for you, the experience of seeing these people you've worked with who've had so many struggles in their life,
Yeah.
meet those, work with them, and come out of it with this practice ongoing. What's that like for you to see that happen?
Well, I'm very proud of it, the fact that I've been part of that, even to start off the offering. But it confirms for me what I've always believed from working with the kids from when they were 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12. that there's an innate goodness in everybody. So I just love watching them. They're just ordinary men with now increased wisdom through their own practice and awareness. That's what it's all about, and they have become more aware. So just to see that and to embrace when you go into the prison, get a high five or a hug from some of the men, it's amazing, really. I mean, like, it's very satisfying to see that, yeah, human beings are okay if you give treat everybody with respect, dignity, and give them the tools to thrive, they will thrive. And it's wonderful.
Let's shift topic a little bit to one of your one of your favorite things to talk about, Dublin's inner city. Tell us
Yeah.
about that.
Well, again, I'm lucky. I've always worked since I started social work. It's been very satisfying to have a good job as a social worker, working for the TUSLA, which is the state child protection agency. That's and I work for the prevention wing of that, PPFS. It's called Partnership Prevention Family Support. So I was lucky to get a job working managing an NYP, a neighbourhood youth project in the heart of the inner city. It's been there 42 years now. I was there for I was there and run by really good people before, and a great team of some local people running it, and then people like myself coming from the outside. It's a TUSLA organization, but the local people call it their club. This is their club, and it's fantastic like that. About 30, 20 years ago, you wouldn't have advertised that you were a state agent. You wouldn't have your sign up because they were saying, "Oh, social workers take your kids away." But we've now been able to say, "Yeah, we are TUSLA," but they see us as their club. We work with amazing children, from parent and toddler groups to I used to, because I've retired, Charlie, but I was in touch with them today, and I will continue to link in with them because they're kind of in my heart. But the families, it's an amazing place, quite derelict in some areas there, although the council are trying to improve that. But again, a disenfranchised community for generations, with huge amount of drug addiction, cocaine in the 80s, and now again it's all kinds of drugs and crack cocaine and heroin, and again, how people have lived in such poverty with addiction, mental health issues, and still come out bouncing. You just have to take your hat off to them. So we're lucky enough to work with amazing kids that they join us maybe when they're 4, and we'd work with them till they're 12 because they'd come to our after school every week. But they become part of the club, and they need that kind of guidance and minding because maybe their parents have addiction or mental health and haven't got the capacity to support them in the way they'd like to. And then we work with the parents and run through a MEHL system, which is Irish for the farmers gathering together to bring in the crops. So we do that, and that's become amazing. And I couldn't have done my job without the local network, which is the Family Support Network, run by amazing people, grassroots, who bring everybody together, like the councils, the primary care, mental health, TUSLA, HSC, and community, anybody that wants to get involved with supporting children at risk. And that is amazing. So we have a mental health working group, a hard to reach working group, and we are a team of people that bounce off each other, try to change policy, and the government task force that are there, so we're represented on them. And that's kept me alive, kept me going, kept me hopeful, because that's what actually is going to make changes. It's bringing in, we call it a new way of working, because everybody worked in silos before that. But now we've got government people sitting at the table, and we bring in the mindfulness, because we teach. I run a class every Thursday there, and another teacher, Maura, MBSR, where because of COVID, we started this where we meet every Thursday, do a half-hour guided session, and the community workers, our families can come and we do a half hour together. And now, we also have a start of practice where every meeting we have, we start off with, what are your energy levels? How are you? Before we go into the day's business. And that has shifted something in the inner city, I think. And there's an openness to kind of look at doing things differently. And yeah, so that's, yeah.
It's interesting hearing you speak about all of this work is that unlike many mindfulness teachers who've been offering programs to those who are, well, not in difficult circumstances, that things are pretty good for them,
Yeah.
you've been working very directly with people undergoing significant hardship, deprivation, the most difficult circumstances of their lives. I'm wondering as we close up today if you have any just parting words of insight or encouragement for those who may be in very difficult circumstances, who might feel a little bit trapped, things are a little bit narrow. What might you suggest to them?
Um, I like keep going because they do. There's very little I can offer them. I've done the mindfulness with women that have come into the parents, and they also love it. And they sometimes they can't sit for the full half hour or whatever, but we do whatever um, they can manage, and they love it. They want peace and quiet and tranquility and balance and letting things go and acceptance and non-judgmental. So I would just say I take my hat off to you if you're living in crazy circumstances. It's universal. We're all the same underneath, and if we have to deal with adversity, reach out and get some support, and don't be shy. There's people there that want to join and support. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, for those who are watching or listening to this episode, I'm going to have several links for you where links are found. Our guest today, John Peelo. John, good to see you. Thanks so much for spending time with us today.
Thanks a million, Ted, and best of luck in all you do. All the best, and goodbye to everybody who's listening. Take it easy.
Thank you for joining us for this difficult conversation about bringing mindfulness to prison systems in Ireland. And special thanks to my guest, John Peelo, for all of his efforts in that. Remember, every moment you have a choice. Make it the best you can. And I'll see you next time on Mindfulness Voyage.